Today at MAT, we are going to talk to the legendary yacht designer, Robert Perry. He has designed yachts for Tashing, Choi Lee, a number of other yacht manufacturers that we can look up on Sailboat Data, and you can see his designs in practice all over the world, sailing around the seas, and that is very exciting. Hello, Bob Perry. Welcome to Sixth Grade Art.
All right.
Welcome. Guys, let's give it up for Bob Perry. Bob, did you have a presentation for us, or do you want to kind of open it up with questions? Everyone is saying hi in the chat. I'm not sure if you can see that. Kind of on the right side of your screen, you'll see a little looks like a text bubble. And if you click on that, you will be able to see what everyone is typing.
Give feedback?
I'm not getting, so you mean like audio feedback?
Well, okay, there's a little button, there's a little icon down in the right-hand corner.
Oh yeah, not that one. On the upper right-hand corner, you're gonna see an icon that looks like
says preview?
No, not preview.
That's the only icon I've got.
Okay. Here, let me show.
I think I might have a screen that's like a setup screen. There's no commands on it. I don't have any options on it except preview.
Tell you what, I will kind of say what's going on in the chat. That way, if you're in another screen presenting, you'll be able to kind of get the gist of that. We've got 3 students who reached out and said hello so far, who by typing. So we're off to a good start.
Are your students in the room with you, or are they at home?
No, they're at home. On Thursdays and Fridays every other week, I teach fully remotely, but I come into the classroom to do it because I have a nicer setup here to do that. I can't get anything done in my house.
How old are the kids?
How old are the kids? I think I asked them earlier, and I got a lot of number 11s.
They're 11 years old?
I got 11 years old. Ooh, I got a 12-year-old. A couple 12-year-olds.
Okay.
Old folks. 11 and 12.
All right. So, I'm going to pull up my presentation.
Fantastic. And just to kind of introduce you again, guys, this is the Robert Perry, whose name is associated with a large number of different boat designs. For me, it's especially been hearing you associated with sailboats, kind of under 50 feet, I think, mostly, right?
Yeah, under 70.
Under 70 feet. Fantastic. And quite a prominent and respected name, certainly by me, certainly by lots of other people that we have heard from. And so just to fill you in, Bob, on what's going on, the students have been working on a boat design unit. I gave them a prompt a couple weeks ago, which is, what kind of journey would you like to go on? And in response to that prompt, they thought of different places they would like to go and what type of boat would be appropriate for that journey. So they are each kind of individually doing research projects to learn about different types of boats in order to design one of their own.
Great. Okay. So you want me to just start talking?
Sure.
Okay. Sounds well, good to be here, kids, and nice to meet you. I'm an old man. I'm 74 years old, but I wasn't 74 years old for my entire life. I grew up in Australia. And when we lived there, we lived in a small apartment. We called it a flat. Small apartment, no TV, no telephone, no dog, no cat. I didn't have a bike. You probably could say we were poor, but when you're poor, you don't always know you're poor because you always know somebody else who's more poor than you are. But that's the life I lived growing up. And when I was 12, my father and mother decided we should move to the United States because so we have a better quality of life here. So when I was 12, we got on an old World War II Liberty ship. We had 90 passengers. And my mom and dad, myself and my sister, and off we went from Australia at 9 knots, and came to Vancouver, where we had to get to Seattle, which is 3 hours away from Vancouver, but we had no money. I had my life savings with me. The part of the school had a savings program for the students, and my life savings was $20. My dad asked if he could borrow it so he could get tickets on the train to get us to Seattle. And of course, Dad, so I gave him my $20, and we came to Seattle, and my dad's sister lived in Seattle, and she picked us up, and we stayed in Seattle. And life was better in America. But here I was, an Australian kid in the 6th grade. I talked funny. I didn't have the same kind of clothes the other kids had, but I didn't care. I was happy. And the girls liked the fact that I had an Australian accent, so that was good. And I'm just gonna. This is where this picture here is. This is where I live now. I live on a beach, and that's our beach.
Bob, I think you're not sharing your screen right now, but
okay. So how do I do that?
If you look in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, you will see a little Present Now button.
Present. I don't see a Present Now button.
If you're in the Google meeting and you look in the lower right-hand corner, you will see a Present Now. You should see a Present Now button in the lower right-hand corner.
I don't.
Really? In the Google meeting?
There's notes, comments, normal, slide sorter, reading view, and slideshow.
Oh, it sounds like you have to switch back to the Google meeting. The meeting that we're in, the Google Meets meeting.
Okay. All right. Here on Google Meeting.
All right. And then.
But there's no options on the bottom of my screen.
Oh, how strange.
Yeah, I'm on, like I said before, I'm on a sort that says, up in the left-hand corner says, get ready. I'm on some preliminary screen. I'm not on the regular screen.
How weird, because you got into the meeting.
Yeah, well, let me X out of this screen, okay, and see what happens. Sure. All right?
Sure thing. Sorry,
anything could happen.
Technical difficulties.
Okay, there we are. Turn on microphone, present now.
That's the one, present now.
Present now. Your entire screen.
Yeah.
Okay, then click the little screen in the middle. Share.
That's the one. Here we go.
This changes everything.
It sure does.
So you see me.
Yes. Now we are seeing your entire screen.
Okay. So now I'll pull up my this thing. No,
Fantastic.
it's not. Oh, my PowerPoint.
Excellent. Laura, one of our students, has just shared that her mom is also Australian.
Oh, where from in Australia?
Gold Coast.
Oh, I lived in Sydney. I lived in the city. So you see my screen now?
Yep. See it.
All right.
Very nicely.
That's where I live.
That's a nice house.
Yeah, it's a nice house.
And when we spoke yesterday, my phone rang. It said it was coming from Marysville, Washington.
Yeah, they're fighting over the name of the town. The local Indian tribe is called the Tulalipes.
Okay.
And I'm actually where I live. I'm so surrounded by the Indian reservation. We're not on the reservation, but it's all around us. And the Indians want to call the town Tulalip.
Uh-huh.
And the other people want to call it Marysville.
I see.
I like Tulalip myself.
Yeah.
It sounds like cooler than Marysville.
we can see in the reflection of your windows that you're right on the coast there. Is that, I'm just going to ask you because I've been to that region. Is that the same reservation that's near La Conner?
No, LaConner is 40-minute drive north of me.
Got it. Okay. We're going to
That,
be,
that that's the Lummi Reservation.
okay, got it. Same
This
as
is
Lummi Island.
Wales. So now you see my beach now, right?
Lovely beach.
Yeah, that's my front yard. That's my office. Nice, comfortable place. I have a good stereo system up there and a piano, lots of guitars. That's my office there.
People are remarking about the that it's very pretty and that there's lots of miniature boats on the wall that they noticed. And Wei said it was very clean.
Well, it's not. I got dust bunnies everywhere. My wife stays out of the office, so it's up for me to vacuum it. And I'm kind of a slob. So this is Daniele. He came from Italy to do an internship with me.
Oh, terrific.
And here he is using some of the old-fashioned gear we used to draw curved lines. We don't use these anymore. We use a computer today, but the interns I've had, they just love trying to use the old stuff, get their hands on it.
What kind of computer software do you work on?
I use AutoCAD and Yacht. Auto Yacht for hull design and AutoCAD for drafting.
How long have you been using computer-aided drafting?
20 years.
Okay.
This is a drawing I did. So let me get back to my story. We came to America and everything was fine and dandy. And I went to school, grade school, played in the band, played the drums, and went to junior high and played in the band. But I had artistic differences with the band instructor, teacher. And he sort of gave me an ultimatum: one more time, Perry, and you're out of here. Of course, I saw that as a challenge. So I was out of there shortly after that. And they took me to the principal's office and said, hey, we're halfway through the school year. What can we do? Where can we put Perry halfway through the school year? And somebody came up with a brilliant idea to put me in mechanical drawing.
And you said that was at what age?
They put me in mechanical drawing, and I loved it. I loved it. And shortly after getting into that class, I ruled that class. I was the best kid in the class. So through school, I could always count on, I took mechanical drawing every year. I could always count on an A in mechanical drawing and an A in PE. But all the other classes, I barely got a D. So I had a very low grade point average and was not what you'd call a good student. I was a bad student. And when in 8th grade, I had to give a talk. Our English teacher had us all get up and give a talk in front of the class, and you had to use visual aids. And I decided to talk about sailing. I've never been sailing in my life. I didn't know anything about sailing. But I'd come across the ocean from Australia on this small Liberty ship. So I knew what it was like to be at sea. And something just drew me to sailboats. And I got some books out of the library and gave the talk. And after that, it just sort of snowballed. And I kept drawing and reading about sailing. And finally, I got some drawing equipment of my own and started to draw at home. And first thing I drew was a sailboat. And I just kept drawing sailboats. I was probably 20 when I drew that boat right there, maybe 19 or 20. This is one of my boats built in Taiwan. So I got out of high school just barely. I had a 1.69 grade point average, and they told my parents that they should have held me back, but they didn't think it would do any good. So they graduated me from high school. No college would take me. Nobody. Finally, I got a college that said they would take me, Seattle University, and they would take me on condition that I maintained a certain grade point average. I could stay in. And the problem was they were the most expensive college in town. And when I told my parents I got accepted into Seattle U, my parents said, that's wonderful. We're not paying. So I had to pay for my own college. But I played in a rock and roll band that was a pretty popular rock and roll band in the Pacific Northwest. And I made enough money that I could pay for my own school and support myself, drive a nice car, and have a pretty good time when I went to college. That boat there is called a Baba 30, also built in Taiwan. A lot of my boats were built in Taiwan, and this is back in the early 70s when Taiwan boat building was just new in terms of yachts. But I got involved in that and went to Taiwan many times. I've tried for 40 years to learn to speak Mandarin. I've never had a teacher. I've always just tried to teach myself, and I can struggle along okay. I can't always understand what people say back to me, but I can usually tell them what I need to tell them in Mandarin. But if any of you there are Mandarin speakers, you probably understand what that meant. There's a Baba 30 there. So when I got out of college, I quit just before I graduated. I stopped 22 hours short of graduation. And I didn't have much money. The band wasn't doing so good at that point in time, and I didn't know what to do. And the only skill I had was drawing boats, because all this time in college, I'd still been drawing boats at home. So I applied for a job one day, sort of out of desperation, with a local yacht designer, and I took him some of my drawings, and about 10 o'clock in the morning, and he looked at my drawings and he said, "Can you start after lunch?" And I said, "Sure, I can start after lunch."
Who was the yacht designer?
Oh, a guy named Jay Benford. He's a pretty awful designer, actually. But I worked. He gave me he let me get my foot in the door, and that's what. So I'm always I can't think of the word. I'm always in debt to him for giving me my first opportunity. And I worked for him off and on for about 3 years. And then I moved to Boston and got a job. I heard about a job in Boston and I applied for it. And they gave me a 2-week trial period. So I flew out and worked for 2 weeks for free. And at the end of that, they said, "Well, we'll hire you." So I moved to Boston and worked in Boston for a year. That's another boat. That's a Baba 40 built in Taiwan. That's below on the Baba 40, all that beautiful teak wood. So I worked in Boston for a year, and then I kept drawing at home and talking to people. And I got to the point after a year, I thought, well, I've got some jobs lined up for myself, and that this might be the time to open my own office. Because if I can't do it now, I'm probably never going to be able to do it. So I moved back to Seattle and opened my office and started designing boats, and things got busy. That's another Baba 40. That's another Baba 40. That's an interior drawing. That drawing was done on the computer. That computer drawing is fine. It's all right. You know, the thing you got to remember is I tell you about how I got into this. My family never owned a boat. We were not a yachting family. that was just beyond our financial situation. So I had to get into sailing on my own by hanging around on the dock. And when there was going to be a race, a sailboat race, I'd walk the docks and ask you, hey, do you need crew? Do you need crew? Somebody always needed crew. So I always got on a boat to race. And pretty soon I was racing all the time. And I was kind of encouraged by my high school geometry teacher who knew that I was not paying attention to geometry in class. I was drawing boats all the time. But he was a sailor, and he was the adult supervisor for the Corinthian Junior Yacht Club. And he said, you should join the yacht club. And I said, well, I don't have that kind of money. Join the yacht club. He said, it's only $10 for a junior. So I said, oh, I could do that. I worked after school. I worked in a meat market, which I really enjoyed. And so I joined the Junior Yacht Club, and that gave me access to dinghies to sail and got my foot in the door with a number of sailing people.
That's amazing. Do you think it's still possible to just kind of like hang out in docks and talk your way onto boats?
Absolutely. I never did not get on a boat. And I used to walk from our house to the marina where the boats were. And that was about like a 5 mile walk, and then 5 miles to walk home. But I got to the point where I was racing 3 and 4 days a week sometimes in the summer. And once you showed them that you were a hard worker and could kind of learn how to do it, they always asked you back. Well, can you come back next weekend? Because it's just a fact of life that at least back then people were always needed crew. So I still think you can do it today. You just have to be persistent and hang out. That's another boat. Has a hand drawing I did. This is before computer drafting, so you can see my drafting skills. And I was a very good draftsman. I learned mechanical drawing, and I had a lot of good role models in the yacht design business who were excellent draftsmen, and I kind of studied their work and did the best I could to emulate it.
These students just completed a technical drawing unit, which is kind of another word for mechanical drawing.
Yeah.
If you could go back a slide, guys, you can really see what an amazing art form this is. Even though when I introduced it, I kind of presented it more as a communication tool.
Well, it is. Number one, it's a communication document, right? It's a working drawing. We call it a working drawing. But there's no rule that says a working drawing cannot be beautiful. And the better the drawing, the more inclined the builder is to pay attention to it. So you can get their attention by presenting them with a very nice drawing. And I became pretty good at that. That's a computer drawing there. That's me. That's me back in 1977. Sitting in my office, wondering what the heck is going to come in the future, but too busy to worry about it.
Looking good.
Yeah. Back when I had brown hair. These are all boats I've done. That's another computer drawing there. I like drawing on the computer. Somebody said to me today, well, would you rather go back to hand drafting? I'd have to say no, because for one thing, I'm 74. My eyes aren't what they were when I was 34. And to do this detailed kind of drawings, drawing on the computer gives me the ability to zoom in, zoom out, and close in on a detail so I can get a good view of it. That's a 3D rendering of this boat. Same boat, but that's the 3D view. And that was done by a friend of mine in Alabama. He does all my 3D work. And
Is
that
that
boat was built in North Carolina.
that's amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing. This is a boat that was built in Anacortes, just north of La Conner there. 43-foot cutter, all carbon fiber. 43 feet long, $1.4 million.
How interesting that the rudder is kind of hung off of the transom there. Am I seeing that correctly?
Yeah, that's called an outboard rudder. That's an extremely traditional way to handle a rudder.
Yeah,
In fact, there was a time when all rudders were outboard.
right.
Uh, but this client wanted an outboard rudder. He wanted a rudder he could take off the boat at sea if he had to repair it.
Great idea.
That's the carbon cutter, we call it there. And it's an old-fashioned style of boat. That's what the client wanted. It's a look from like the 1920s, 1930s. But that's what he liked. That's the inside of the boat. There's small spaces. You know, I deal with small spaces, and I have to make every inch count when I'm laying out the galley, the kitchen, or the bathroom. We call that the head. And every inch counts. That there's always times during the layout of the boat that I would kill to get one more inch somewhere, but I just don't always have it. But it's a game of inches. That's the boat. This boat is this boat. Just before it was launched for the first time. Actually, we built 4 of these. It's a very unusual situation because the client for this boat said, I want 4 of them. And he's giving one to each member of his family. But he bought 4 of these for $1.4 million a pop.
They're gorgeous.
There's the boat sailing for the first time. That's me sitting back there with the sunglasses on, driving the boat, just having a great time. It's always good when everything works.
Bob, speaking of a great time, we have about 10 minutes left of class.
Okay.
It always goes way too fast. And the students had some questions.
All right.
I'm scrolling up here in the chat and finding them. One person asked, how many boats have you designed?
I don't know. I've never counted. Honestly, I've never counted. I would say probably 200.
200 different designs. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another question was, let me see, where was it? How much money would it take to build one boat? And I guess I think I know the answer varies a lot. So if you mentioned how much the boat that you just showed cost, what about in terms of raw materials for, let's say, a 43-foot cutter sloop?
Well, that boat that I showed you is carbon fiber, so that added $50,000 to the cost of the boat.
And that's
but it's all depend. I can't give you a number, but for a custom built 40-foot boat, it's going to be over $500,000 easy.
Yeah. This one that we're looking at right now, that reminds me a little bit of a Wakiez.
No, that's the CT-54 built in Taiwan. That's the first fiberglass boat I designed. I was 26 years old when I designed that. They built 100 of them.
Some more questions from the students. What is your favorite design? And I was wondering that too. If you could kind of like design your own dream boat, which maybe I'm sure you've done, what would it be? And what kind of boat would it be?
That's hard to say. It depends on the day. It depends on my mood.
Are there certain lines that you're more attracted to? Like, for example, do you like flush decks? Or?
Actually, I can go back here and show you one I drew for myself. right there. I
That's
do that
gorgeous.
for myself and my two grandkids.
Yeah. I love those lines. The flush decks and the little kind of the deck
Yeah,
salon.
yeah.
That's
I
just
I like that. I consider that a really true Pacific Northwesting looking boat.
indeed. Well, we're going to be spending some time in Orcas Island this summer, so uh, not the best sailing as I understand, but still a very good sailing community up there.
Yeah, no, not the best sailing, but there's usually at some point in time every day there's a breeze.
Yeah,
You just may not have it all day.
you got to find your breeze exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Austin asks, what was the most impressive design? I'm not exactly sure how to kind of spin that question to you. Um, Maybe, why don't I ask you this? What other designers have impressed you the most?
Oh, lots of them. Bill Garden, Phil Rhodes, Owen Stevens, Kay Aggie Nielsen,
Yeah,
Bill Tripp, Bill Lapworth, Vandestat.
Vandestat's great. Uh,
Um, when I was a kid, I studied all the great designers. I mean, that's the guy I worked with in Massachusetts, Dick Carter. Uh, I studied all the great designers. That's pretty much all I did was study yacht design and cut out all the design drawings from the magazines and file them away and just spend my life staring at those drawings to learn how to do it. Because I didn't have any formal training. I'm just totally self-taught.
it's incredible. Are there really good schools that are teaching yacht design now?
Yeah, there's one, and
Just
it's
one?
in Southampton in England.
Oh, okay.
And I've had a couple guys work for me that went there. There's a school in Maine called the Landing School. They're not too bad, but the place in England is a 3-year course,
Wow.
and it's very comprehensive. The one in Maine is like a 1 or 2 year course.
And you end up with some kind of certification in naval architecture.
No, not. It depends what state you're in. You can't. You've got to be careful where you call yourself a naval architect.
My wife's a terrestrial architect, and she can tell you all about um, the pratfalls of using that term.
Yeah, well, I call myself a yacht designer.
Yeah,
So I find that's far more accurately descriptive of what I do
indeed.
than naval architect.
Tell us about this boat that we're looking at right now. That looks like an expedition yacht.
No, that's just a boat for a guy down in Oxnard, California, who was a ex-racer and he wanted a comfortable cruising boat.
It looks speedy.
He just sold it. He's a
Really?
little too old for it now.
Is that about a 60 footer?
54.
54.
Yeah,
That is gorgeous.
but very light, very fast. This boat here is another cruising boat for an ex-racer. This boat's called Free Range Chicken. Is the name of that boat, and that's the interior of Free Range Chicken.
That looks very roomy.
No, that boat there is Francis Lee. It's 62 feet long and 9 foot 10 inches wide, and only weighs 19,400 pounds. So very, very fast, very, very easy to sail. Nice below, very good boat.
Oliver asks, what were your boats mainly used for? And I'm guessing the answer is recreation, but have you designed boats for science purposes? I'm sure you've designed racing boats. Any commercial boats?
Yeah, and I don't know if you call it commercial boats, but I designed a boat for Uh, yeah, I've done some small commercial boats. I did one for a place in the Florida Keys called Little Palm Island Resort,
Mm,
which is supposedly the most expensive resort in the United States. And they needed a commuter boat to bring the guests out to the resort. I did a boat for them, a power boat.
how cool.
But most of my boats have been recreational boats.
Right now in New York City, there's a boat docked across the water in Brooklyn, which is it looks like an expedition yacht. It's a ketch, and apparently it is the cargo vessel for a vineyard in France. It's called Le Grand du Sal,
Huh.
and it's a gorgeous looking boat. It looks a lot like the expedition yacht Tara.
Yeah, well, I don't know what an expedition yacht is. I'm a little confused by that. I mean, my, my boats like Tiana 37s, they do lots of
Right.
expeditions, but nobody calls. You could call that one an expedition yacht if you
Yeah.
want. I
I've
just not.
I've
I'm
heard the
not
term
sure.
associated with metal hulled boats that are kind of designed for Arctic
How
voyages.
about that?
Yeah.
That's a fiberglass boat, but I don't call that an expedition boat. It's just a CT 65 that happens to go up where it's cold. That's the same boat there,
That is gorgeous.
or same model.
That is just gorgeous.
Yeah, I think any boat you take on an expedition is an expedition boat. But
Right
I
on.
wouldn't limit the kind of. I kind of know what they're getting at.
Yeah.
It means kind of rugged, right? A little more
Yeah,
rugged
something
than.
rugged, right.
Here's a boat I did in China. We built 120 of these in Xiamen, China.
You mentioned that a lot of the boats in the 1970s were starting to be made in Taiwan. Why is that?
They had an overabundance of very skilled woodworkers there, and the dollar was real strong compared to the Taiwan dollar, the MT, and they had boat yards there, and I think it got started with guys that were flying uh, pilots who were flying to Taiwan. With time off, they travel around Taiwan and run into these boat builders and, hey, could you build me a boat? And pretty soon, the yards were building boats, and they started with almost all the yards started with this generic 41 footer that came out under a number of different names. And pretty soon, CT contracted with me to design boats for the Ta Chao yard. And it just exploded because the quality of the boats was so good compared to the price that you couldn't get that quality in America without going to a really fancy, expensive yard.
Bob, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We are humbled and so grateful to have you with us. Unfortunately, our class is technically over. These kids have to join some other meeting now, which
All
will
right.
no doubt be much more boring and not as exciting as this one. No offense to the other middle school teachers. But anyway, they have their lunchtime now, so we can
All right.
we can fade out kind of gradually if we like.
Okay.
Guys, let's give a big round of applause virtually for Mr. Robert Perry, who has been so generous with his time today. I am just like blown away by the fact that you were willing to come in and talk to these kids. It's just fantastic.
谢谢你给我大面子，再见。
I didn't understand that, but maybe some of the kids did.
I
Thank
hope
you
so.
again.
Are they laughing?
they are enthusiastically wishing you a goodbye.
All right. Bye bye. 再见.
Thanks again, Bob.
Okay. Bye bye.
Take care.